The Esquilier Empire is known for many things. Winning wars is one of those things. Yet for a long time it had been unable to subdue its enemies, the Shadate Principality. Generations came and went, unable to achieve the dream, until Margrave and his son Eric stepped in. They were able to subdue their four, marking their surrender with a document which they submit to their king. On the outside, the man looks like he is thinking of the best way to thank them for achieving this feat, but everything gets dark when he asks if Eric is of marriageable age now. His father reluctantly agrees, wondering what the Emperor is hiding behind his sinister smile. He hopes for the best until the Emperor talks about giving his sister's hand in marriage. Already he knows this isn't a negotiation, it's a decree, but that isn't his problem. His problem is that the lady in question is the hidden princess no one has ever set eyes on, and some presume dead. He can't believe that kind of person has been forced upon his son, but that's not the worst part of this. The worst part is the lady herself and the condition she is in. The knights present are at a loss for words, yet the Emperor casually introduces her as his younger sister, Miessa Esquilier. He claims she is shy, but when she falls to the floor, it's clear there's more going on with her than he is willing to share. He does cover it up, though, claiming she is merely unwell, a lie Margrave sees through. Still, he thanks the Emperor for honoring his family with royalty. Deep down, he can't believe this person qualifies to be called a princess. But Eric doesn't seem to mind. He announces his acceptance too and strolls over to her to introduce himself. He does this without knowing she'd react harshly, like a cornered animal, to be precise, and when she does, he pays no attention to her behavior. Her brother, on the other hand, calls her to him, before apologizing for her behavior. Then he asks her to apologize too, but all she does is bark. Margrave is pissed. Nevertheless, on his way home, like he was at the palace, he stays silent too, while thinking about how in the long war they fought, his family, the Cladnies, snagged the win for the Empire. He is aware that the Emperor arranged this marriage because for some reason he isn't pleased, making him even angrier. His silence eventually fades when he gets home, and it is replaced with loud cries as he complains about his son getting a foolish princess as payment for their unwavering loyalty. You'd expect Eric to be bothered too, but the man doesn't have a care in the world for his father's complaints. They all know they are cornered as the wedding is inevitable. It's unwanted, no doubt, but he is willing to step up as the heir of the Cladni house. It's his duty, isn't it? He eats peacefully with that in mind, while his father continues to rage. Amberic, Eric's cousin during his uncle's episode, gets curious to know what happens with Eric's previous engagement with the Crispin family. He is told that it has been nullified because of the Tyrant King's reckless declaration. This was to be expected nonetheless. What Margrave doesn't expect, however, is the calmness of his wife at a time like this. He knew Thalisa as someone who didn't hide her opinions, but her silence makes it look like she has also accepted their fate. In truth, she hasn't. She is just busy recalling the conversation she had earlier on with Miessa's maids. They told her that Eric was going to share a room with Miessa and take care of the odd princess personally. Recounting that annoys her again, and she chugs down wine knowing there is nothing she can do about it. Still, amidst the resentment and bitterness, Eric remains unchanged. He stays that way even on the day of the wedding. Unlike the overjoyed citizens, the news of the war hero getting married to the noble princess was what they needed to smile after a long war. They, like everyone unaware of the truth, see the union as a fairy tale, but it's far from that. Yet the wedding proceeds as planned, with a packed crowd of nobles and citizens of the Empire trooping into the wedding hall. Everyone wants to see the princess who has been hidden all her life, wondering what she looks like. They have a lot to say based on the rumors, but pipe down upon the arrival of Lord Margrave and his wife Thalisa. The man just wants to get out of the circus show, but he isn't allowed to do that in peace because at the door, the man is informed about the Emperor not being able to grace the wedding, while his sister arrives safely. Margrave takes his absence as another spit on the face, though he lets it slide and allows the wedding to continue as planned. Before the eyes of all, Eric takes his place and the air is thick while they wait anxiously for the princess to arrive. As the doors open and she walks in with the assistance of her maids, everyone can tell something is wrong. They shuffle around suggestions of her being either drunk or unwell, mostly because she can't walk properly. Yet everyone leaves their suspicions as whispers, watching the wedding continue until the end. They then head home afterwards, continuing with their lives, while Eric gets ready for his first night with his wife. Her maids, the same women who spoke to his mother on how she should be handled, instruct him not to harm her in any way while he handles his marital duties. By morning, they plan to get proof that he did the necessary, and he is okay with that. It's all about performing his duty, after all, so he doesn't hesitate to make the first move. He is stopped, however, by the empty bottles of sedatives by her bedside. From their size, he estimates that such an amount of sedatives can bring down a horse. To use that amount on a human being on the verge of starvation was inhumane to him. Even prisoners of enemy countries were not treated so badly. Initially, he couldn't think of anyone who would be that ruthless when dealing with royalty, until he realized that it must have been the Emperor who gave the instructions. He grits his teeth at the thought and cancels all plans of consummation instantly. He might get to that another day, but for today, he looks to help the poor princess. Quickly and gently, Eric takes off Misa's shackles, but in the process, he realizes that he has to do more than that. Given that if he leaves her the way she is, it might be bad for them. He softly helps her under the covers and tells her about himself, even though it looks like she isn't listening. He tells her his age, position, and the story of the younger sister he lost to an accident. Aside from her, he has no other siblings, which is sad. The young man didn't stop there. He willingly told her about how he lived at the border due to the war with the Shidate Principality, and even wanted to tell her about their wedding, but couldn't tell how much she understood. He knows it's best she understands the position she is in, although he ends up deciding to do that after he lets her know she has frostbite because of winter's harshness. He prescribes warmth as a cure for her, only to realize that she has fallen asleep. He thinks she is better since her skin color has improved and is convinced she'll be okay by the time she wakes up, but he needs to get proof of consummation. Fortunately for Eric, he finds his way around that and submits his proof to one maid who will take it to the priest for confirmation. The other one intends to help Misa get dressed, but he stops her, claiming she hasn't gotten out of bed yet. They believe him and decide to let her rest, unaware that he lied to them. She is wide awake. It's obvious when he walks into the room to find her nibbling on his jacket. Aware that doing something like that might not be healthy, Eric takes the coat and offers her a loaf of bread, which she seems to like. Somehow watching her eat makes him happy. His kindness is already starting to look like more than duty, and he continues with it when later in the day he takes her to meet with his parents. You know, to greet them after the wedding. And the only thing on Margrave's mind is confusion about how he ended up in this situation. Since he isn't in private, he tries to play it cool by inviting the couple in. But it gets hard to continue playing cool when Misa attempts to climb the bear statue that represents the Cladney house. She is stopped immediately by Eric, but that doesn't stop Margrave from drowning in shame. He flicks his tongue in rage and leaves, while Misa's maids mockingly rush to take her from Eric. They advise him to leave her with them and go in to rest, but he refuses, dismissing them. The maids waste no time leaving, and Thalisa quietly watches her son assign the Cladney servants to take good care of Misa, since she has become a member of their family. He leaves with the servants and his bride, returning with her for dinner, where he again asks her maids to stand down. It seems he doesn't trust them with her. If he did, he wouldn't suggest handling her meals by himself, even after they warn him that she has problems with eating, but he waves their warnings aside when he hears she eats everything. Eagerly, he lets her have her first bite, but she ends up spitting it on his face and going berserk. The maids, watching from a safe distance, try their best to hold back their laughs. It isn't easy, but they manage to do it, standing there when Eric orders his servants to prepare to clean up. For some minutes, he leaves the table with Misa and comes back after he has put her in bed. By then, it's just his parents, who are angrier than they were at the start. With sign language, Lord Margrave demands to know how long they have to keep Misa alive. He's fed up, so he wants her terminated. Truly, Thalisa would like the same, but she is sure that their lives are tied to the life of the princess. If she dies, they die, although it doesn't look like Eric wants her unalive. Let's take a little history lesson on the Escalier Empire, shall we? So the empire is made up of many noble families, 3 of which make up the 3 columns. At the top is the Salachis family, known by their snake crest and their involvement in keeping the empire's internal stability. Following closely is the Crispin family, who control the internal security of the empire and are represented by a deer crest. Lastly, Eric's family, the Cladney family, is in charge of the external safety of the empire, and we all know of their infamous bear crest. The 3 families had the most hands in the military, power, and security of the kingdom. The previous emperor, to maintain some sort of balance, got a wife from each family. The first queen was the daughter of the Duke of Salakisi, and mother to the current tyrant Vermalik II. Vermalik boldly refused to fulfill his duties as the king, but that wasn't the worst of his sins. The sin that gets that award would be him causing the annihilation of his mother's people, the House of Salakisi, under the guise of restoring royal power. As for the remaining families, he oppressed them for no reason, forcing them to come together and start plans for a rebellion. To their detriment, their plan didn't go as planned, with the rebellion falling apart and Vermalik working in the shadows to make sure the people were on his side and the opposition fell. He left a lot of bodies on his dirty trail to asserting dominance, but pinning a deadbeat sister on his son, Margrave hates the most. He thinks the lady isn't mentally stable, which is true, but Thalisa defends her, asserting that she heard the child was normal at birth, and for some time in her life. She is rumored to have gotten paralyzed after witnessing so much death in the Empire, something that she finds pitiful. Margrave is annoyed that his wife is sympathizing with that girl. He thinks he deserves sympathy, especially because there are talks of Eric's cousin Ambric taking his place as heir of the family to help them inherit the family from the Crispin Marquess. He tries to tell his son that this new development has just put his position in a tight spot, all because of his crazy wife. Still, he says nothing. His mother, searching for a new ladder out of the hole they are in, asks her husband for a status report on Vermalik's cousin, Prince Hagale. According to Margrave, the man is too weak-hearted. There was a bump in their plans one time, and he has been cold ever since. This man, aside from the princess and Vermalik, is the only surviving member of the royal family. He was a necessary piece in their takeover, but he suddenly became crippled due to an accident he suffered. The cause of the accident, we can all guess, but since then he has lived a secluded life. This annoys Margrave the more. He storms out, pissed that he just can't find a way out of this. For Eric, it's like his father can't even win against himself right now. His mother, seemingly calm right now, uses his father's absence as her chance to have a little chat with him. She first asks him what he thinks about the development so far, and he tells her that he understands that they plan to join the Crispin family and the Chladni family together through marriage. The Emperor didn't know this before, but now that he does, a formal marriage ceremony would draw too much attention to the plan. Since they do not know who is next in line for the Escalier throne, they are trying to play it safe on the sides they pick. They also don't want to offend the king. In other words, it'll take a while to convince them to support a union between a man of the Chladni family and the Crispin Marquess, meaning she'll be unmarried for a while? But how long can she stay unmarried? She didn't think that far. Surprisingly, thinking Eric's hardened and sharpened mind comes from the time he spent on the battlefield. She acknowledges how sharp he is when it comes to political matters, because of battlefield experience, and understands that he is trying to say Miesa is the only hitch in their plans. She thinks he is suggesting they kill her, to remove her from the equation. But Eric doesn't look like he fully agrees with that. For now, he suggests they watch the situation surrounding her. She agrees, and adds that regardless of what the maids may think, he shouldn't show Miesa any affection. But Lisa believes it might be a problem with their plans later on. Plus, if they end up needing to kill her, his affection might be a problem. For the poor girl's sake, his mother advises that he doesn't confuse her with kindness. For some reason, Eric flinches at his mother's conclusion, thinking about it later during his stroll through the halls. He is not okay with his mother wanting to eliminate Misa, and looks back on the little time they've spent together. It hasn't been much, but he is attached to her. It's certainly more than duty now, but his mind goes from his mother to the maids and their gossiping, which he is fortunate to run into. From the way they sound, he can sense some level of harshness from them towards his wife as they try to get her to sleep, but he doesn't step in until they start talking about his family. He then dismisses them, permitting them to come the following morning to take care of Misa. It's obvious that he doesn't trust them, from how often he keeps dismissing them, and they know it, yet all they can do is resent him while they obey his orders. When alone with Misa, Eric notices that she is currently in a good mood. He watches her play with her hair for a bit before approaching her and telling her that she is currently in the Chladni capital mansion. He informs her that she'll be shuttling to and fro, from here to her territory and back a lot. Since she'll be traveling a lot to this place a lot, he wants to be sure she likes it. In the process of trying to figure out her mood, he notices that they hadn't made eye contact for a while. Away from that, he realizes she always has one style of clothes on, plain, damp, and unbefitting for a princess. They look more or less like a prison uniform. As he observes her, Eric ends up overstaring. Misa accidentally catches him, and they end up staring at each other for a second too long. During this time, he notices how beautiful she is, only for her to ruin the moment by blowing raspberries at him. By doing this, she bathes him in saliva, waking him up from the little trance he was in. Calmly, Eric wipes his face and guides her against acting so rudely, after which he admonishes her to rest, promising to join her when he is done handling work. Later in the night, they are both in bed fast asleep until a storm wakes Misa up. She is frightened by the storm, waking up moody because of the many thundering sounds she had to endure. Watching her as he tries to help her have breakfast, Eric notices she is down and asks her about her night. He fears she experienced discomfort while sleeping, guessing it was caused by the difference in bed, but she barely responds. It's visible that she looked better last night when they went to bed than she does now, and her appetite is low. For her good, he advises her to eat something to stay energized, even if she doesn't feel like it. It looks like she understood him the moment she reaches into the bowl of pottage and helps herself with some, but it wasn't her appetite that was the problem. It was her unfamiliarity with spoons. She prefers using her hand, which he doesn't advise against. One day turns to months in the Chladni mansion being Maesa's new home, and Eric noticed it had changed subtly since their marriage. In the training grounds where his knights are, though they act respectful on the outside, deep down he knows everyone has something to say. It's written on their faces, their intention to speak up as well as the thick atmosphere to back it up. It is so tight that everyone stops training until he reminds them they aren't done for the day. Hearing his order, they continue with training, and he goes back to thinking about the situation at hand. Within his family, his father now eats alone because he is unhappy with Misa's unruly eating habits. His mother has tried to tell him to keep his emotions in check, but Margrave has refused to listen. Even their subordinates look confused concerning the matter, Yet no one has dared to openly show dissatisfaction concerning the matter. Eric stays firm, as always, supervising training and eventually joining in before he retires to the mansion. There, the butler informs him that his wife had been up and down the mansion, eventually ending up in the maid's workroom again. He can't believe she went there today as well, but why is she associating with the maids? Is it because they swaddle her in soft clothes and she can sleep peacefully there? Or because they genuinely admire her and treat her like a puppy? Interrupting them is Eric, who came to get her. Quickly, everyone is at attention and the head maid briefs him on the needful. She tells him that Misa's maids were unavailable, and they came to meet her fast asleep on the floor. Out of concern, they swaddled her up before letting the butler know what had happened so he can pass the message to him. It's a kind gesture he approves of. Still, he thinks it's time he looked after her. Willingly, he takes her to the room, but on getting there, she wakes up and starts wiggling vigorously. He wants her to let him go, but he can't, until he lets her down, so she doesn't get hurt. Once placed on the bed, Misa pulls away cautiously. She's been like this for the past few days, making him believe she doesn't like him that much. Truly, it seems like all she considers him to be is her means of transportation. That doesn't stop him from trying to help her with the thread of yarn stuck in her hair. Nevertheless, the second he moves towards her, she is startled and pulls away again. Right now, she looks like a white cat from his childhood. He finds that amusing, and because of that, he keeps Misa company until later in the night, where he leaves her to rest while he handles the pile of letters on his desk. In them contains issues from the palace maids complaining about him ignoring their services, food rationing problems, and so much more. It's enough to stress anyone out, so Eric plans to call it a night, and is about to go to bed when he notices a sealed letter on his table. Quickly, he opens it and the contents freeze time. It's a message from his mother concerning his father's affair. During their days on the battlefield, he suspected his father had some skeletons in his cupboard, and confirmed his suspicions when he spotted his father with a certain waitress from the area. Since they were at war, he saw no need to stress about it, taking the matter as trivial, even though he felt betrayed and bitter. It was war, so he kept it a secret, monitoring the woman and his watch over his father until after the war. His investigation showed the waitress had no benefactors, so he wanted to leave the issue be, but couldn't after discovering his father kept seeing the waitress, and even made her his concubine. Out of love for his mother, he reported his father's infidelity to her, along with evidence through her maid, Edie. Her response, also through her maid, was plain and simple. She didn't care what Margrave was doing and who he was doing it with. She was too old to concern herself with such and is glad she sees him less. The only issue she has is that his concubine isn't a noble woman and can't help them in any way. Giving it some more thought, Eric knows he shouldn't have expected the response he got from his mother. Her and his father were never close to begin with, raising the family like strangers from their marriage up till now. While thinking about his chaotic family, Eric notices Misa is awake and tries to ask her what's wrong. She doesn't respond, ending up on his lap with her face lighted up. It's clear she's interested in the documents on the table, but he is glad that at least this time she came to him. Watching her rip every letter she touches to shreds, Eric starts deep thinking again. Focusing on how he hadn't thought much about his situation because he resented the king, but he felt a new wave of emotions at the thought of her being the one he was going to spend the rest of his life with. When he met her as a child, he felt a sense of responsibility and some level of pride, but that feeling only lasted a season. Reality struck, making him see himself as a tool for ushering in the next generation. For a man like him who never had high expectations when it came to marriage or women, settling down with one who derives joy from ripping papers to shred isn't a problem. It's responsibility. After a night of deciding which documents Miesa gets to shred and which she doesn't, they both end up in bed, waking up to a beautiful morning. At one end of the mansion, Thalisa and Edie, her maid, talk state affairs when Miesa walks into the room and drops to the floor purposely. Her chubby maid follows carefully behind, and although she is displeased, Thalisa calmly asks what the princess is doing here, when she heard she spent most of her time with her maids. Edie throws herself into the conversation, furthering their act when she claims the princess at times acts like a commoner. Thalisa acts amused by that, staging concern when she asks her maid, Lady Dial, how the princess loves to be addressed. Her failure to respond reveals that they do not care about the girl or try to get along with her, as she thought. Edie then drops suggestions on how to address the girl, and Eric's mother lands at calling her by her name, Misa. Unexpectedly, that makes her light up. Using that to her advantage, she praises her name, and Dial suggests Misa likes her. She agrees and is asked if she'll like anything for dinner. Thalisa gives a negative response, however, dismissing Dial, who leaves immediately. Although they ease up once she's gone, Edie acknowledges that it's hard not to have their guards up in front of the maids. She announced that she did a little digging and discovered that while Diale is always available to run Misa's baths, Lady Malachi's is hardly around. In truth, both maids are openly lazy. Taliesa wonders why. She can place a finger on what the Emperor is trying to put them on. She earns a headache from even thinking about it, and asks Edie to fetch her some headache medicine from her room. Edie assigns a maid to do it, and when she returns with the maid, she notices Miyasa resting on her mistress's knee. She can't believe a woman of such high status would let someone like the princess get so close to her. She thinks the headache has something to do with this reaction and asks her if she needs to see a doctor. In truth, she doesn't. Concerning Misa, she wants to know if the girl is truly 20 years old. Edie confirms she is, making her feel pity for the poor girl. She knows her insanity started after she witnessed so much of the royal family get eliminated. She watched her friends and family die, yet she is still being exploited by her brother. The more she thinks about it, the more her pity for the girl increases, to the point that she proposes they keep her healthy by feeding her. She also notes Misa has wonderful skin, pretty eyes, and other remarkable facial features. She is focusing on the details, something she isn't known for. Funny enough, Edie also never paid attention to the girl. She starts to do so as their eyes meet, and they remind her of someone from their far past. While she wonders if Misa is that person, Thalisa proposes the girl gets a pedicure. There's no telling how it'll go. Eric isn't there, but when he gets back, he is informed by his butler that his wife has been with his mother all morning. Curious to know what's going on, he hurries there but is stunned by what he sees. His mother personally handling Misa's nails. Eric freezes with his jaw dropped for so long that his mother and Edie notice him and are disturbed by the look on his face. He knew his mother as someone who, even though she felt little sympathy for a person, she was never going to do as much as touch that person. Growing up, she was very rational and even cold to him, her son. Looking back, she only had this happy, adorable expression when his younger sister Rosier was alive. He fears his mother has accepted the princess because she projects her late child. For her own good, he steps in, managing to get the scissors from her and handle the pedicure himself. He isn't sure whether he is right or wrong for interfering, but he thinks he is on the right path as he keeps getting flashes of his mother's face on the day his sister passed. As he goes on with his free nail service, Misa doesn't look too pleased. She was calm before, but with her facial expressions gradually changing, Edie fears she might cause a fuss. She racks her brain quickly, thinking of how to prevent that, and finally notices the cookies on the table. Quickly, she shoves one into Misa's mouth, and it actually calms her down. Eric, after witnessing her sudden reaction, asks why she did what she did, and she explains. Her explanation, along with the realization that Misa likes sweet snacks, makes Thalisa laugh. But watching her eat makes the older lady even more excited. The day was a success, no doubt. But at night, all Eric can think about while feeding Miyasa is how his mother reacted towards her. He is convinced she likened her to Rosier, but doesn't know why. To him, their only similarity is their eyes. If that was it, then what about his cousin Ambric? He has similar eyes. Does that mean his mother gave him special treatment too? He can't tell, wanting to resume feeding her when he acknowledges that she has become more docile. His joy is short-lived, all thanks to the grilled quail they serve that she reacts aggressively to. For her sake, he has to ask the butlers to take it out, and they do, while he wonders what made her react the way she did. Her maids had told him she ate all types of food. Could it be that she got sick because of quail one time? The following day, Misa pays the maid's workroom another surprise visit. They all seem happy to have her, but one shows the most joy out of them all. She is so kind that she spreads something for her to lay on to prevent her from catching a cold due to the harshness of the cold, hard floor. The other maids, however, think she is a weirdo for talking to the girl. It's similar to talking to herself since she doesn't have the ability to understand what she is saying. They noticed Eric did similar, but they understood things on his end. She was his wife. It's normal for him to pamper her and carry her everywhere, preventing her feet from touching the floor. But before now, they noticed he had next to no interest in women. They fear people like Misa have always been his type and are about discussing it when a maid stops them, arguing that it was normal for a couple to be as close as they were. When the weird maid returns, everyone hushes, prompting her to ask what they were talking about. She is told not to worry about it, however, and they switch their chat to how Misa puts on such shabby clothes and keeps getting dirty. To help her stay neat, they all agree to embroider her a bib, getting to it immediately while some maids in a different uniform stare at them judgmentally. At the training grounds, Eric notices it's past lunchtime. Unexpectedly, his wife slips into his thoughts. Recalling how she reacted strangely because of grilled quail the previous night, he fears she is still moody like she was in the morning, so he dismisses training for the day, hurrying off to find her afterwards. On his way to the mansion, he thinks about a lot of Misa-based topics, like how she might not have had lunch or she didn't get to play with the maids, something he is aware she loves doing. She doubts she'll ever get to have fun like the maids, but he is somewhat wrong, based on what the butler has to report. Today, the only rest she had was the little nap she took in between the many activities she got involved with. The most outstanding, nonetheless, is that she fell into a stream on her way to the chapel with his mother. It happened while she was admiring fish, but it wasn't anything serious. What is serious, however, is her distaste towards the chapel. Although she willingly followed his mother to the service at the chapel, the butler notes that when she got there, she was reluctant to step in and ended up waiting outside with the maid until the service was concluded. Eric wonders if it'll have been better if they took snacks along and orders that there should be a steady provision of sugary snacks for Misa. That night, he feeds her as usual, watching how bubbly she is with joy. From this night, he can tell the previous one was just a bad night and nothing more. Everything is going great, until a freak accident leads to her biting his finger. At first, Eric doesn't pull away, but when he eventually does, he has this look on his face Misa doesn't approve of. Engaged, she takes off the tablecloth, sending all the dishes flying. Some of the plates land on the floor, others on her, meaning she'll need a shower. To handle that is her maid, Lady Dial, who is fed up with the night-by-night chaos. Still, she helps Misa get clean, returning her later that night by bedtime. Unlike Eric, who is deep in thought, she is fast asleep. But what is the man thinking of late at night that has him so shook? Well, the moment with her biting his hand actually felt romantic. He is ashamed he felt that way, considering how even though she is his wife, she is still a child. He warns himself against seeing Misa in such light, struggling to fall asleep during his battle between what's right and what's wrong. Fortunately for him, he gets himself together, and days later he is with his mother and wife at her study. Thalisa, while pampering Misa, tells him about this poetry reading she plans to attend on Wednesday. She plans to take Misa with her, but fears it might be too much for the girl. She still wants to take her, nonetheless, and Eric advises her not to overdo things. She wouldn't have if she didn't need to, but she is sure she has to show the ladies that she and her daughter-in-law get along. On paper, the gathering is what its title says it is, but deep down it's a meeting where the mistresses of like-minded families come together once a month, like hyenas to gossip about the corrupt royal family and other lacking noble houses. Aside from showing them that she still got it, it's a place where it's easy to get information on what's happening in the Empire. Unlike other times, Thaliessa and the Chladni house are hosting this month's meeting, the reason why maids and butlers are at the venue making sure everything is spot on. In all, it's going to be a massive event, with the Marquess of Crispin and her daughter Lacan on the guest list. It's the first meeting between the Crispins and Chladnis since their plans fell out, making this something of secret interest for everyone coming. Although they know what needs to be done, in this meeting they cannot discuss the downfall of their plans, nevertheless they can get ready for future alliances. Since they have to wait until Wednesday to see what happens, for now Thalisa wants to take Misa to see the greenhouse, as in the venue for the poetry reading. The girl is willing to follow her, but before letting them go, Eric asks her if she had a good time. His mother finds his tone when he does that funny, comparing his approach to that of a father who left his child with a nanny. She affirms that Misa had a good time and decides to invite him to accompany them to the greenhouse since he isn't busy. At the greenhouse, while his mother handles business, Misa is all over the place, running around like a child. Her attitude at the moment relaxes him of all the tension he has been feeling concerning her. Everything is going great when her maid friends approach her to keep her company. With them is a caged bird that accidentally triggers dark memories from Miasa's past. Memories about her mother wanting to scold her that leave her crying out and cowering on the floor. The first person to run to her aid is Eric, while everyone else tries to process what just happened. As he frantically asks what happened, she responds by throwing herself into his arms like a scared kitten. He catches her, though he is shocked and focuses his attention on the maids. Fretfully, they tell him they think she reacted that way because of the bird. Seeing no reason why that should trigger such a reaction, Eric is stunned. It's only after her maids reveal that she is scared of birds that he understands why she reacted the way she did. The maid with the cage needs no one to tell her before she hides the cage, but his mother has no quarrel with her. Her focus is on the maids who didn't disclose a detail so vital. Everyone has some stick with them, yet they respond nonchalantly, demanding they be more polite to them because of all the work they do instead of getting pissed that they didn't reveal such a little detail. They pay no respect to Thalisa, who decides to let their insolence go unpunished this time. Edie, on the other hand, wants to give them a piece of her, but she isn't in the right environment to do that. As for Eric, he just leaves with Misa, planning to stabilize her. Outside, he observes her even more and recalls the way she reacted when they served roast quail. He thinks her fear has something to do with the way she reacted, and he might not be wrong. Deciding not to take any chances, he intends to cancel out all bird-related meals from being served to her. Until she feels better, he wants to take her into the mansion, but she points to the garden. Normally, he expected her to want to go indoors for fear of a bird passing by. But since the outdoors will make her happy, he promises to defend her while they are outside. The walk there is uneventful, as the only thing notable is Eric's thoughts about how Misa has been out of the mansion just twice. Whether or not she'll go out more, he'll decide that another day. For now, he urges her to relax, promising to tuck her in if she falls asleep. In the end, Misa's energetic nature is no match for the tranquil outdoors. It doesn't take her too long to fall asleep, meaning in some minutes, Eric will take her in. At least that's what he would have done if he didn't get a surprise visit from Ambrick. His cousin praises the couple for being so close. and asks if she is asleep, but Eric tells him to scram. He didn't expect Eric to be grumpy and guesses he is this way because he fears his lady will wake up. Refusing to back down, his cousin acts like he wasn't asked to leave and tells Eric that there are rumors of him and his wife all over, so much that some even got to him. Although he is concerned about Misa, Eric is aware his uncle is fervently trying to make Ambric head of the family, as his replacement. And that's something of concern to him. It's also enough reason for him to hear Ambric out. According to his loudmouth cousin, there is a red-haired spy among the maids going about gossiping. He learned that she is a new maid, was sent from Dice, the capital, and is in league with one of Misa's personal escorts. Along with this info, he got to know of a brown-haired male spy among his servants and reveals his name simultaneously with the moment Eric gets lost in thought again. He misses the name, sadly, but when it comes to his cousin, he is aware he doesn't have to worry much. Ambric has no interest in the family head position. The entire family knows that, and since his father has been absent of late, all eyes look to him to step up. Their expectations are high, which is becoming far more unbearable than he expected. It's as if he is held down and trapped in a coffin. The only high he is experiencing recently is Misa. Admittedly, many will not understand why he is always so nice to her. They don't get why he lets her cling to him. It's not their fault. He is as confused as they are, but having her around instead of her running away from him warms Eric's cold heart in an inexplicable way. As for Ambric, he believes that to an extent he can trust him. He did on the battlefield, and they grew closer with every near-death experience they tackled together, so he willingly trusts him to an extent, post-war. Their time on the battlefield also is the reason why Ambric is supporting him in this whole family head issue, taking his side over his own father. Eric is truly grateful to him. He doesn't hide that. But his cousin thinks Eric is also doing him a favor by making his life interesting. Everything else aside, he wants to know if his cousin has truly fallen head over heels for Misa. He thinks so after he heard Eric trimmed her toenails himself, but Eric claims he did it because he couldn't stand by and watch his mother do something so lowly. That's that. But Ambric refuses to use that one time to judge how Eric feels about Misa. He complains about him carrying her around, claiming that he heard she hasn't even set foot on the mansion floors yet. That's a bit overboard, but he does carry her everywhere and claims he does it because she can't walk properly on her own. The way he sees it, he'd rather do that than pull her around like the maids did at their wedding. He reminds him that Misa is part of their family now, but even that isn't enough. Sure, Eric has a logical explanation for everything he is doing, with circumstances to back his exceptional sense of duty and even his compassion. But upon all that, he still can't understand why he's doing what he is doing. Initially, he thought he was being nice to fool the king. If that was the case, then why was he letting her sleep on him when no one was around? Eric warns him to stop talking at that juncture, but Ambric cannot be silenced. He is open to getting rid of Misa sooner than later and continuing with the plan of him getting married to Lady Lacan of the Crispin house. He thinks the poor girl is a misfortune, and that forces Eric to open up. He claims he accepted the proposal because it was the best course of action for him to take. He understood that by doing exactly what the Emperor wanted and submitting, they could move in the shadows because he'd pay less attention to them for a while. Still, it didn't matter who he married as far as she benefited the family. He knew that. He ends his little speech by assuring Ambric that Misa knows nothing. She is an open book and didn't even know who was carrying her or how she was being treated. In his eyes, she was already miserable. There was no need to make her even more miserable. Hearing this explanation, the ranting younger cousin calms down, although he warns Eric that everyone treats the poor girl like a plague. He hates to admit it, but he doesn't disagree. What an afternoon, even so, the drama that is underway in the form of the poetry reading is definitely going to topple this one. Initially, it didn't look like much. Guests/noble acquaintances of the Chladni family were arriving one by one, and the hall gradually became packed. Before the reading starts, the Marquess of Crispin and her daughter, Lady Lacan, drop in too. Finally, before the event starts, Eric shows courtesy by coming with Miesa to briefly greet the congregation. Merely showing up for the event causes a ripple effect, which is the dozens of eyes they had to endure during the short time they used to greet their visitors. On top of that, the couple received insincere congratulations for their union, but Eric saw it coming. Aside from him and his wife, everyone silently watched to see how the Crispin-Chladni relationship was going to be during the span of their meeting. He'll deal with that later, if need be. But for now, he hoists his wife onto his arms and takes her out, declaring she is feeling unwell. Following behind is Lacan. She came without an escort, and neither of them notice they are being watched, when Eric asks her to keep what she has to say brief, alleging he is in a haste. She does as he requested, admonishing him not to have children with Misa, after which she lets her handkerchief fly and leaves. After the reading, the Marquess and Lacan head back to their estate discussing Eric. Although the mother is glad her daughter did as she was told, but was disgusted by the closeness Eric exhibited towards Misa. She is convinced he is romantically attached to her, since in her book she is the type of girl men fall for. A pretty girl who knows how to giggle the right way. She poses a threat to their mission of getting into the Chladni house, but the Marquis urges her daughter to find a way to get into the house and get them the life they have never had. Lacan was basically raised to bear heirs for the family she ended up in and was taught basic etiquette and virtues of being a good hostess, but there's a side to her. We'll get to see later, and it'll probably explain why her hands look so worn out. That night, Eric is drowning in work. With his father's focus fixed on political affairs, keeping the family in order is his duty. It isn't easy, really. It's a big house with numerous problems, and he has to make decisions concerning all. The most pressing duty he has to attend to at the moment is figuring out how they'll get through the summer, as they are experiencing food shortage. This happening after losing life and property isn't funny, but it's a problem. He has to handle it. And the best solution he comes up with is finding a way to ensure they stay fed until autumn. By then, he expects the returning soldiers to be able to harvest the fields, stabilizing their situation little by little. They were the ones who gave the most to make sure the war was squashed. You think the Emperor would compensate them properly? But he didn't. Instead, he gave them the Halleck iron mine, something they need to develop in the meantime and would likely profit from years later. Ultimately, it won't help with their feeding problem, an issue that the Emperor has turned a blind eye to, leaving them on their own. It's not a significant financial burden, in truth, but it's an issue nonetheless. Young Miyasa doesn't understand that, if she did, it's unlikely that she would have approached him to bother him at a time like this. Days later, the family have another problem to contend with, in Lakani's missing handkerchief. She dropped it at the mansion purposely, and it's a show of romantic interest. But Thalisa, when she's told about the sign, orders Edie to get the maids of their mansion to join the Crispin maids in searching for it, before rumors begin to spread. She instructs her to say the handkerchief they are searching for belongs to her, an explanation that might not do in the long run, but it is used to get some maids searching for it without suspicion. During the search, maid Malachi's signals the Crispin maid who informed Thaliesa of the handkerchief, and they go to a corner to discuss. Their topic, getting rid of Misa. The maid wants it done within 2 years, yet Malachi's is willing to do it even today. The sooner the better for her, but in any case, they need to constantly communicate and understand that the Chladni mansion isn't the best place to do that. She can't keep making excuses to come over, so they conclude that the best place to meet is in the city. And since Malachi's is quite free most of the time, all she needs is a time and place for them to meet. Behind all this is undoubtedly the Marquis of Crispin and Lady Lacan, who must have promised this sly maid a lot of money. Before they know it, it's evening and dinner is in a few minutes, the main reason why Thalisa is busy getting Misa's hair done. For the sake of them, eating together, with Margrave, that is. She asks the girl to be quiet and well. Margrave, watching from a distance, is irritated by his wife's closeness with the girl, but gets even more pissed when she takes back her earlier charge and replaces it with a request that all Misa should do at dinner is eat well. She cares more about the girl than she does about what her husband thinks, which is visible when at dinner time Margrave complains about the annoying sound she is making by dragging the table fork on an empty glass plate. The maids also find the noise appalling, but say nothing, while he tries to get his wife to control the situation, but she employs him to be patient with Misa, who is just learning how to eat by herself. Defeated, he looks to his son, expecting a more rational response from him, but Eric, instead of scolding her, carefully advises her on what to do. He thinks it's irritating that someone so old needed so much care, but by constantly stressing this matter, he finally gets Thalisa to ask him not to pay attention to Misa. She is sure the girl doesn't want his attention anyway, a statement that shouldn't be taken as disrespectful, but Margrave decides to see it that way. It gets worse when his wife ignores his mood while focusing on Eric making sure her daughter-in-law eats well. That attitude is the last straw for him and the reason why he gets up to leave. Before exiting, though, he doesn't forget to angrily remind them of their meeting with the Emperor in some days. They are supposed to greet Vermalik the Tyrant, and he wants them to make sure Misa has no bruises or scratches when the time comes, for the sake of the family. In Escalier, it's a tradition that a newlywed couple visit the home of the parents of the bride, 50 days after marriage. That meant he had to go to the palace with Misa, and Thaliesa wants to be sure he is all right and has gotten gifts for the Emperor. Eric claims he has, and soon enough, the day of the visit arrives. While he is in the carriage with Misa, Eric watches Lady Malachi's giving orders to the carriage driver after ordering them in what they should and shouldn't load onto the carriage. Eric is shocked to see her handling her duties. As for his wife, she is just being herself, the wife he welcomed amid the sympathetic gazes of people. He agrees she isn't as bad as he thought, and he leans over to ask her if she remembers his name. To no one's surprise, she pulls away. Something he finds funny as he tells himself that although she might not know who he is, having someone to protect makes his life worth living. Once Malachi's is done giving instructions, she joins them in the carriage and the journey to the palace begins. It's a peaceful and uneventful ride, landing them at the palace in no time. Upon arriving, Eric and Misa are not even allowed to rest before being ushered through the intimidating halls to go see the Emperor. Taking cognizance of his origin and rise to power 20 years ago, Eric attributes Vermalik's quick success after ascending the throne to the power that backed him in the form of his mother's people. The Salakis were a powerful family. Their dominance ended 11 years ago, around the period when the Emperor flipped his switch and ended up painting the palace with the blood of his people. It was said that before the previous pool of blood dried, another person was unalived. Eric knows the halls he is walking through were once covered in blood and bodies, so much that as he walks, he doesn't know whose body lay on the spot he last stepped on, or which lay on the one he is about to take. To visit a man with so much bloodlust explains fully why Eric is on edge and resents Vermalik. Miesa, on the other hand, doesn't look bothered at all. She is free as always, and her brother can see that her face is prettier now than it was the last time he saw her. With Vermalik is his concubine and wise men, but Miesa pays no respect to them when she drops to the floor like she usually does. Although he ignores that, he drags their attention back to her improved complexion, attributing it to the possibility of her being pregnant. Of course, the sly man hopes a baby is on the way, and Eric plays along, even though he could never make someone like Misa, who can't process things straight, go through the woes of childbirth. He thinks he has been able to fool Vermalik, but his advisor comes to him, whispering to him, while Eric tries to use his claim of Miesa not being fully healthy to leave the room. His plan fails, however, when the Emperor takes his mind back to the night after the wedding. He declares that although he shared proof of consummation, the princess was fine, which wasn't supposed to be. Going on, he notes that the maids constantly gathered proof to show that he hasn't laid a finger on Misa yet. To think Malachai's and Diala would go that far. Vermalik accuses Eric of not being happy to have an heir with royal blood, and willfully takes his act of deceit as treason. The Emperor speaking of treason simply means the life of all the members of the Chladni house and their staff is on the line. To save them, war against the Empire would be the only option, but he can't do that with only 70 knights that he brought to the capital city. Vermalik already has Eric nailed, but to fully crucify him, he turns to Miesa, coercing her in order to get a confession from her that her husband didn't touch her. To everyone's surprise, for the first time, they witness Misa communicating back with words and actions that manage to get Eric off the hook for the time being. He is still stunned as the Emperor dismisses them harshly, but he takes Miesa away anyway, back to the carriage and then home. Upon arriving, he orders that everyone is kept away from the West Wing on the second floor, declaring that he will take care of her this evening, but wants Cullen, one of his knights, to be summoned. Amidst the crowd that comes to welcome Eric is Dayal, who can't understand why he is requesting solitude. Nevertheless, there is nothing she can do about it. Later on, at the West Wing, Cullen, a Chladni knight that is also Eric's right-hand man, arrives in response to Eric's summons. He meets Misa, causing a fuss, but is instructed to make sure no one comes near the room while he is in. Should anything happen, he wants to be informed ASAP, an order Cullen can uphold. Once he is out of the room, all focus is back on Misa, who Eric starts to interrogate. First, he informs her that no matter what she does, no one can hear her. A detail that frightens her, but he tries to let her know it also means that she can talk to him. He is aware she is able to communicate and refuses to let her continue feigning innocence. For that reason, he is patient enough to wait for her to get tired and speak up. It is her only way out of this. Just when it looks like Miesa will prolong his wait, she does something out of the ordinary, spooking him by quoting what his mother said to his father during dinner some days ago. "Honey, don't pay any attention to Misa. Misa doesn't want your attention either." The repetition was nothing like what she did in that palace. Unlike then, when her tone was innocent and shaky, this one is firm, yet elegant. So elegant that he is at a loss for words, but still manages to ask her why she put up that act before her brother. Her good acting saved him no less, but she responds with another quote. "We'll be looking for meat like hyenas, so we have to show that we're doing well." He's sure he has heard that phrase before, but can't put a finger on where he heard it from. For now, though, due to his hand shaking in shock and his mind not being able to process things properly, he lets her go and apologizes for being too hard on her. In truth, she is much more than he ever expected. So cunning that he wonders what her little head has been thinking all this time that made her use trickery to survive. According to the stories he heard, she was 8 years old when she watched her mother die. As time passed, she witnessed the deaths of her half-sibling and more in the hands of the Emperor. She feared she'd suffer the same fate and accepted to be treated worse than an animal, over death. For a man who just came into her life, Eric feels pity towards her. For all the years she spent living less than human. He wonders if he is supposed to offer her words of comfort for her terrible past. But when he considers the possibility of his words not being able to rid her of all the pain she experienced, he swallows his words and leaves. The following morning, Eric stayed around when Miesa's maids came to check on her and the butler brought food. He sat silently, watching Malachai's go to wake her up for her meal. In Malachai's head, she was discouraged to see that he wasn't executed for giving false proof of consummation to the Emperor. She still plans to go on with her duties, but he stops her, ordering her to let Misa sleep some more, especially after the journey to the palace and back that he is sure was exhausted. It's all an act, the maid suspects, but does as she is asked. She can't say what exactly is up with him, but she lets things be, while Eric's butler advises him to have breakfast since they brought it already. He does, even though it's his first time eating alone since Misa came into his life, and every bite tastes as rough as sand. His day continues while we spend Misa's day with her. Ever since the big revelation yesterday, seeing that there is more to her makes her actions clearer. She actually plans the weird deeds she wants to carry out during the day, from messing up the breakfast table to nibbling on Eric's clothes to bothering Dial. It's all planned. It's all an act she carries out cleanly, until she stops to think about Eric, the black-haired man, and the chances of him revealing her secret. She recalls that yesterday he looked like he was angry at her. If he truly was and exposed her, she worries that they'll kick her out of the only place she has found comfort in a while. Truly, she is scared, but for her sake, she relies on her knowledge of him up until now. He didn't seem like the type of person who would rat her out. Well, just in case he did, she knows the best way to confirm is by going to see his mother. When she gets there, Thalisa welcomes her warmly as usual, although she complains about how dangerous it is for her to walk around without any maids. Watching Misa collapse on her, she guesses she must still be half asleep. Her daughter-in-law, with a clear mind, is overjoyed that Eric's mother is still her usual self. Since she was already handling family business, she continues, urging the butler not to mind Misa's presence. He obeys, discussing with the woman of the house freely about all that's been happening so far concerning produce and edibles. During the discussion, Misa picks the necessary details and plots solutions for their food scarcity on her own. Yes, she knows about Eric being worried because of the coming food scarcity. That night, she read the documents. While plotting solutions, Thalisa feeds her butter and is overjoyed when it looks like she is enjoying it. For her sake, she plans to get more butter, an attitude Misa doesn't understand. How is it that Eric and his mother are always happy when they see her eat? The ones closest to her, her brother and the maids assigned to her, had no care in the world for her, making it hard for her to believe that anyone in the world would care so much about a princess who is a plague. Anyways, as always, her day goes on perfectly, at least until Eric returns and comes to get her. Thalisa is surprised that Miesa, who is usually calm, isn't acting calm, but she had no idea the girl just doesn't want to go with Eric. She is scared because he knows her secret. Still, he picks her up and whispers to her that it'll be best for her to come with him, since he hasn't snitched on her. Later on, they have dinner together. He is all formal, and she is annoyed by his sudden strictness, and him expecting her to eat by herself. For a moment, she dislikes him, consoling herself with the niceness of the servants of the household. They are so caring that even though they knew she would eat her food with her bare hands, they brought cutleries for her. Now, faced with the problem of eating by herself, Miesa finds it hard to eat with the spoon and fork. It's been over 10 years since she tried using them. It isn't easy, but she manages to take one bite, only for him to compliment her for being good at eating. She can't believe he just told her that and ditches this cutlery to eat with her bare hands. While eating, she makes a mess, as usual, and cleans herself with her tongue. Not only is she using her hands because it makes eating easier, but also to keep the table messy and avoid suspicion from maids who come to clear out the leftovers. What she is doing isn't wrong. It's what she usually does. But for some reason, Eric finds this tempting. For his sake, he asks her to stop and pulls his chair from his end of the table to hers. Throughout, she is thinking he is angry, but that's not it. Since she doesn't know why he is acting up, she thinks it has something to do with her eating like a beggar like she usually did, but he just cleans her up and leaves the rest for the servants to handle when they come around. While he supervises from a silent corner, Miesa endures a harsh bath from Malachi's. The maid can't understand why Miesa never catches a cold and wishes for a few days of comfortable rest, the same thing the poor girl wishes for. It's been a while since Malachi's came to handle her bath by herself. She usually left it for the other servants. Since she came of her own accord and is acting grumpy, Misa decides to retaliate by pulling hard on her hair. The maid can't help but retaliate, struggling until Eric intervenes. As he demands an explanation for what he just witnessed, she expresses her shock for him coming to the bathroom, but also tells him that Miesa caused a riot. She doesn't stop there, and throws in a claim that Mesa usually hurts herself when she enters riot mode and she doesn't know what to do. A laughable excuse on her part, but she uses it anyway, and hopes to get him out of the bathroom so she can finish bathing Misa. To her astonishment, Eric offers to handle her bath himself, unmoved by Malachi's claim that he isn't ready for all the splashing and running around the girl does during showers. He replies that he is most fit to handle this, so she gives up and briefs him on what to use on her. Only Miesa and her know that she is lying. She never uses any of the things she recommended he uses, but she is grateful nonetheless, preferring the baths she has here to the lye water baths she had at the palace. Eric is uncomfortable right now, truly, so he asks her if she can bathe herself. She stays silent and confused by the way he is acting, thinking he is angry. Honestly, she can't have that and decides to cooperate, disrobing, to keep him from nullifying the marriage and reporting her to her brother. There's also the chance of him getting physical. He has a physique that makes it look like he is violent, like her brother. She endured a lot in that maniac's hand, and although she finds it somewhat charming, she fears that he is about to get forceful. It's the height of her mistaking his confusion for anger, but just when she expects things to get bad, she feels his gentle touch on her back, followed by a concerned demand to know how she got the scar on her back. It sounded as though he pitied her, as he used a tone she had never heard him use before. He sounds as if he feels regret for her, a tone that prompted her to respond that the cause of her scar was her brother. Well, at least that's the response she thought she gave. What he heard was her usual sounds that didn't piss him off, but it made him quit the chit-chat and get to washing her. For her good, he urges her to tell him if she feels any discomfort, since it's his first time and he has no idea what he is doing. During the bath, Miesa feels like she is being treated like a puppy, but also notes how careful he is being toward her. She feels so good, asking herself if a bath was supposed to be this great. During the bath, she remembers that shame is a thing, and this new feeling she thinks Eric passed to her. They both end up with red faces. That doesn't lead to anything later on. Later that night, Eric is tired, but instead of focusing on himself, he is trying to get Miesa to join him in bed, claiming she must be tired. Initially, she listens, laying next to him, thinking about how he has been giving her mixed feelings, but mostly kindness from the interrogation yesterday. To him feeling sympathy towards her for her scars, to him not complaining about the way she ate. She wanted to hide her true self from him, but in the end, she was unable to do so. Why? She can't say. Even so, the second she notices he is asleep, she slips out of bed and into the dressing room. In all, she thinks he is a rare good person. For that reason, she intends to be kind to him. What she doesn't know is that he isn't asleep. Out of curiosity, he follows her into the dressing room. The closer he gets to the room, the more sounds he hears coming from it, until he gets there to see her practicing her speech to a mirror using all the phrases she came across today. He marvels at first, but ends up in even more awe when she turns to him and manages to put together a sentence. Honey, Misa is practicing. Do not. The following day, the maids come to inspect her, treating her like a mutt as usual. But unlike previous times, she actually feels ashamed, an emotion Eric awakened in her yesterday. Today she feels dirty about the way she's being treated, though she chooses to focus more on Eric than she does on their words. Yesterday, she discovered that the thought of someone discovering her true self made her feel uncomfortable. She can't tell what he is thinking about her right now, but assumes he views her as a weirdo. Malachi's and Dayal, unaware of what's going on in her mind, discuss the thought of Eric not being aroused by Misa. They think she is too lowly for anyone to want to have a child with her, which is what they think. But that's okay. Her mind is on her body. It's been a while since she suffered any bruises. It's dangerous for her at this point. She has to cause a major disaster and put a frown on some faces or suspicions may start to rise. For the rest of her morning, all she focuses on is what to do that is so her. Her first idea is to hurt herself, but that's suddenly a problem to her. She doesn't want to get seriously hurt. Her next idea is breaking something expensive, like the vase she is setting her eyes on, but with the family's current condition, she can't bring herself to do it. In the end, her best bet is getting herself hurt. To do that, she focuses on the set of stairs they are approaching, along with Dayal, who is far back and seemingly uninterested. All she has to do is pretend to lose strength in her legs and all from the first stair to the bottom, while trying her best to control it and not harm herself. Easy, right? Nope, it's so difficult that she closes her eyes before preparing to make the jump. As soon as she is ready, Miesa lets herself fall, only to be caught by Eric, who dismisses Dayal, offering to look after his wife himself for the day. She is sad he foiled her plan, but quietly follows him anyway. Their first stop is the greenhouse, where they sit to chat. For her sake, he ordered the removal of all the birds, but he is curious about why she is scared of birds. After pressing for a bit, she finally speaks up saying, "The bird ate it." It's a vague statement, and he requests more info about it, but she's thinking about the audacity it took him to bring her here without permission. She isn't done dwelling on that when his questions about her speech start to bother her. Why is he pestering her? We can't say, but the man continues stressing about her speech, assuring her that she can speak freely because no one is around. Due to her continued silence, Eric starts dropping suggestions. The one that catches her attention is when he asks if it's difficult for her to speak. Really, it is. She expresses herself better in her head, yet when it comes to voicing it out, it's impossible. From Misa's growing interest after he dropped the suggestion, Eric believes he is barking the right tree, so he asks her if it's hard to put together words because it's been a while since she conversed with someone. She doesn't know for sure, honestly, but it sounds like he is right. More so, the reason he continues, declaring that although she is bad at expressing herself, she is good at mimicking others. With a nod, she affirms his statement, making him suggest that she keep communicating with nods to make things easier. Nodding should be enough for now. Nevertheless, observing Eric and the expression on his face, she is motivated to speak, giving her next response her all. Sadly, it doesn't sound right to her. throwing her into red-faced shame. She is troubled that this keeps happening to her, Eric can tell, which is why he encourages her, promising that with continued practice, she'll be perfect at speech in no time. Until then, he offers himself up as a learning tool, permitting Miesa to imitate him to groom her speech. For learning purposes, he lets her feel his Adam's apple, its movements and positioning based on the sounds he makes and his speech. He claims he was taught this method of speech by someone during puberty, and he urges her to try it out for herself. Although Misa doesn't know what puberty is, she gives his method a go. He recommends she use it to say anything to him, if she has gotten the essentials. Swiftly, she does as she asks him what puberty is. For some reason, his attempts to keep a straight face after the question is hard. He ends up laughing uncomfortably, leaving her both pissed and confused. When he is done laughing, Eric apologizes for the rude response, after which he explains that everyone's voices change around the same age, puberty. He notes that it's her first time hearing the word, but admonishes her to ask any other questions or say anything else if she'd like to. His brain goes blank when the next thing to come out of her lips is, "You haven't touched me yet. Looking forward to it." He doesn't get it, or decides not to get it initially, but does when she demonstrates, informing him that she desires intimacy. He stops her, no less, but is red as a cherry as he begs her not to be so froward in public again. Seeing that he gets what she means, Misa will like to know when they get intimate. She is scared that if they don't do it soon, she'll be dragged away by the Emperor again. Such fate is not in her bucket list. It's not in his too. Nonetheless, he begs for more time. Miesa can't understand why his face is so red right now, but listening to him suggests they first get to know each other, then discuss the discomfort she spoke of one time, before delving into heated nights. She doesn't understand why he is backing down. Even so, she accepts his offer to give her a tour around the greenhouse. Initially, she considers Malachi's and Dayal said about the Emperor monitoring her marriage, but casts the thought aside, choosing to enjoy this moment. It's not like they'll come get her now anyway. The walk continues, the couple sightsee, sharing a peaceful afternoon before he notices that she is walking fine on her own and asks if she ever had an issue with walking. The smile on her face following the question leaves Eric in awe. He admits that she even had him fooled with her good acting skills, not only then, but from the start. He'd like to know how she was able to fake it, and she'd love to explain. But she doesn't know how to tell him that she put pressure on the back of her thighs and calves. Moreover, it's fine. He is aware her speech is impaired, she doesn't have to say much. To show she is very comfortable with him, Misa stretches her hand out for Eric to carry her. The man doesn't hesitate, lifting her as he commends her for walking more than usual today. In his arms, no less, she finds peace along with the understanding that he is a better person than she thought, and shows her a kindness that she thinks will last. Looking back to the night before her wedding, Mesa recalls the priestess reading to her about intimacy. She read about it in an indifferent tone that made it sound like it was undesirable and somewhat painful, something annoying she didn't want to get involved with. Now it's the only way of solidifying her marriage with Eric. She is willing to get this over with quickly. Her only problem is her husband continuously postponing the deed. Watching him closely as he eats, she has a lot to say. Upon noticing he is locked in her stare, Eric permits her to speak. Should she have anything she wants to say? He is a man whose life is on the line because of the Emperor right now. It makes no sense to her that it looks like she is the only one who is anxious about them needing to consummate. Finally, she speaks up, asking him when they got so close. He doesn't understand what she means and tries asking her what she means, but she doesn't respond. Right now, all she can think about is that the reason why Eric hadn't made out with her yet was that he planned to annul the marriage. She fears that he was never a kind person. The attitude he is putting up is only a trick. He is stalling for time to get rid of her. She is so zoned out that she is unable to hear him constantly calling to her. She is busy worrying that he isn't satisfied with her, but it's not just him. Whenever someone here treats her well, she gets 100 anxious thoughts or more. She is constantly feeling uneasy, worrying that to save herself from losing the nice family she has found, she needs to consummate the marriage as soon as possible and secure it. Living here reminds her of the distant time with her mother and the good maids that were originally at the palace. Tired of calling to her and not getting a response, Eric has to go to Misa and shake her a bit to return her to consciousness. He assumes she is unwell, until she opens up with the phrase, "Who would want to give his seed to someone like her?" Eric guesses that remark was Malachi's, and he is glad she opened up, giving him a chance to clear the air. He again repeats that they haven't gotten to that because they still don't know about themselves. She can't believe he is bringing this up again, so she quotes him as she asks if they can get to know each other and alleviate the discomfort he was talking about that time. Her words help him understand why she was so attentive that day at the greenhouse. She listens so she'd have words to use to bring the topic up on a later day. It's obvious she is impatient, but whatever the case is, he claims he needs time to get mentally ready for intimacy. A huge mic drop on her plans, although he'd like them to try to get to know themselves from that night. Grudgingly, Misa lets it slide. wondering if Eric is as experienced as she is when it comes to what they need to do. By bedtime, the couple get to talking again. In line with the promise he made her, he wants them to get to know a little about themselves each night going forward. He assures her that for every detail she shares, he'll reveal a similar one of his own. First, they discuss food preferences, then they talk about whether she enjoys being indoors or outdoors. That's where Miesa's patience grows thin, forcing her to imitate his mother while asking him to quit talking. For a second after the mimic, Eric is silent, processing that she just imitated his mother, before he bursts out laughing. Secretly, Misa admires the way he laughs, but he loves how she sounds when she calls his name. He'll like her to try it again, which is easy for her since she admires him. Nevertheless, the word when it comes out makes him blush. The girl gets praised for having such a nice voice. However, for being so cooperative, she gets a kiss to the forehead. That's arguably the first attempt of intimacy he has made towards her, making her want more. On his end, Eric requests she tell him more about herself from now on. Watching her, he confesses to himself that he has developed some level of curiosity towards her. The lady who was able to deceive everyone so perfectly since her childhood. He'd like to peer into her little mind and know everything about her. However, he goes to bed knowing that in the meantime, all he can rely on is questions. The following day, the mansion is in unrest. Servants panicking, Malachi's and Dial being scolded, then Eric comes in to meet his wife seemingly unconscious and injured. What happened? Let's go back a few hours to the morning. As usual, Misa's maids come to check on her like they always do, getting there to see that the couple still haven't gotten intimate. For a split second, Malachi notices that something is off about Miesa, but she doesn't know what. It doesn't take her long to let it go, though, and focus on the meeting she has with someone, a topic Dial wishes to discuss. The discussion triggers Misa to fear the maids are up to something, especially since Malachi hopes the person she is meeting comes with something decent. She can't tell what that decent thing is, but it's sure the maids have lived in 10 years' worth of accumulated obsession. She lets them gossip about the 3 pillars of Esquilier, you know, the families that run the kingdom, showing their contempt for all 3, although for now their focus is the Cladnies. Dial is tired of her status with the family, wanting out as soon as possible. That's where Misa decides it's time to act. She fears that if she doesn't do something absurd today, she'll arouse suspicion, and starts laughing insanely. On their way to her room are 2 maids from the mansion, with things they believe she'll like when they hear strange sounds approaching. At a distance, it's unclear what they are hearing. Nevertheless, it becomes clear where the sound is coming from Misa soon enough, as she dashes past them in full speed. She is glad they saw her, as they will be serving as her witnesses, while they try to figure out what she is doing. Her initial plan is to tumble down the stairs, however, she can't do that. There's a maid by the stairs and a couple more around it. In a millisecond, her plans change, leading her to a room that has a balcony. There's no one around, icing on the cake of her plan. There's no one to stop her, allowing her to jump off the balcony onto a field of daisies she hopes will cushion her fall. Word of this gets to Eric fast, but his mother beats him to his wife's bedside and scolds the maids for letting Misa out of their sight, but she thinks is the main reason behind the accident. Eric can sense the seriousness in the atmosphere. Still, he plays it cool, turning to Gela, a member of the Holy Knights Church, to call a doctor. He doesn't know what fully transpired. Nonetheless, he thinks it's proper for Misa's original maids to be relieved of their duties and replaced with a maid of their own. He always needed an excuse to make that judgment. They just dropped one on his lap. As for reporting this case, he assigns Edie to accompany Malachi to the palace to report the incident to the Emperor, an event that might hinder her scheduled meeting. Anyways, he wants everyone out of the room, so the servants scurry off, leaving him and his mother. Hurt, she complains about the incompetence of paid help these days, looking to him to support her. Sadly, he can't. He knows what she is doing is projecting her desires of his late sister Rosier to Misa. Negligence is what led to his sister's death in the spring before her 10th birthday. What led to her passing? She was struck down by a drunk knight on a horse because she was out without a nanny. The little girl's passing took away his mother's sanity. From the stable boy who provided the horse to the drunk knight to their families, old people and children included. Punishment for the death of her daughter was handed. The punishment: death. Seeing all this happen, his father criticized the excessiveness of his mother's actions and has been estranged from her ever since. He fears today, like that day, his mother is losing her sanity again. For her sake and the sake of the lives of many that might suffer his mother's unleashed anger, Eric promises to handle this by himself, because it is his duty. Before his mother can respond, Gela returns with the doctor's report and lets them know Misa faced no serious injuries. It's just mere bruises, meaning she shouldn't have any problems moving around. His mother is gladdened by the news, heaving a sigh of relief, after which she announces that she has to get some fresh air. As for Miesa, she is willing to leave her to Eric, trusting that he'll handle the matter skillfully. As soon as his mother gets out of the way, Eric confirms with Gela concerning the injuries, requesting to know the true severity. According to Gela, it's just as she said it is, except for the deep old wounds that are untreatable, and she saw no need to mention. Concerning confidentiality, she promises word of the injuries will not get out. She isn't someone to divulge personal information even when she is drunk. He acknowledges how professional she is, plus he trusts her to an extent. That's why he employs her at the spot. He wants her to resume work tomorrow and will inform Edie about her later on. With that, he lets her leave and he returns his attention to Misa, who he knows is not asleep. He is certain she had a reason for doing what she did, one he wants to know. Enjoying this so far? Comment Princess for part 2.